When you think about digging up fossils, you imagine immediate understanding, right? But picture this. 1784, Italy.
Right?
Cosimo Alessandro Calini finds this incredible fossil, the first of its kind, and his best guess. It's some kind of weird sea creature.
Yeah, that's the wild starting point for Pterodactylus, the very first pterosaur ever identified. And that fossil from the Solnhofen limestone in Bavaria.
The famous one.
Exactly. It basically kicked off this, well, 2-century-long puzzle to figure out what on earth it actually was.
So that's our mission today, to unpack the story of Pterodactylus Antiquus, the only valid species now, apparently, and figure out how it went from sea monster to winged finger.
That's the plan. Winged finger Pterodactylus, that's literally what the name means. And thankfully, Calini's idea didn't stick around too long.
Okay, so who figured it out?
Well, shortly after, Johann Hermann looked at it and realized that super long fourth finger that had to be for something special. He briefly thought maybe mammal, like a bat.
Okay, closer.
But then Georges Cuvier, the comparative anatomy giant, he stepped in. He saw the reptile features but agreed with Hermann about flight.
Ah, so Cuvier puts it together. Flying reptile.
Precisely. Cuvier nails it down, calls it petrodactyl back in 1809, recognizing that the fourth finger held up a wing membrane. That was basically the birth of pterosaur science right there.
So if we could, pop back to the late Jurassic, maybe 150 million years ago, what would Pterodactylus Antiquus look like? We're talking giant movie monster.
Actually, no. It was relatively small. An adult wingspan was probably just over a meter, maybe 1.04 meters across.
Wow, okay. Not the huge creature you often see labeled pterodactyl in pop culture.
Not at all. And anatomically, it had this very distinct, long, thin skull. And the teeth were interesting, about 90 of them, narrow, conical, and they went further back in the jaw than in many of its relatives.
And where does it fit in the pterosaur family tree?
Good question. It's considered an early branching member of the Catenochasmatidae lineage. Those are pterodactyloids known for long jaws and often lots of fine teeth.
Okay, so it's the first one found, first one named. Sounds like that could cause problems later.
Oh, it absolutely did. Because it was first, Pterodactylus became what we call a wastebasket taxon. Meaning, for a long time, people found pretty much any small pterosaur fossil from that region, often juveniles, and just sort of lumped them in. Oh, looks similar. Must be Pterodactylus. Total chaos.
Right. So names like Pterodactylus elegans, for instance.
Exactly. P. elegans, P. longicolum. Turns out many of these were actually baby versions of completely different pterosaurs, like Stenocasma or Ardidactylus.
It must be incredibly hard to tell a young Pterodactylus from a young something else, especially if they look similar.
It's a huge challenge, trying to distinguish growth stages from actual different species. Identifying these cryptic taxa, as they're called, requires really intense analysis, spotting those subtle patterns.
And that confusion isn't just something from the 1800s, right? It's still debated.
Very much so. There's still active debate about whether certain other named forms, like P. kochi or P. scolopeciceps, are just, different growth stages of P. antiquus, or if they represent totally separate genera, like Diopecephalus or Aerodactylus. It highlights how tricky classification based on immature fossils can be.
That whole process, digging through complex, maybe fragmented data, trying to spot hidden patterns and connections, it requires some serious analytical power.
Absolutely. It's about deep synthesis, finding meaning in the noise.
Which, interestingly, brings us to our sponsor. This kind of deep dive, that need for intense data analysis and pattern recognition, that's very much like the work done by Embersilk.
That's a great point. If you or your business needs help with AI training, automation, complex integrations, or even just figuring out where AI agents could provide the most value, Embersilk are the ones to talk to. Check them out at embersilk.com.
Definitely worth a look.
Yeah.
So back to Pterodactylus Antiquus itself. What do we know about how it actually lives day to day?
Well, we have some clues. For instance, studying the scleral rings, those are the little bones inside the eye socket.
Okay.
The analysis suggests Pterodactylus was diurnal, active during the day.
That's interesting. Why does that matter?
It suggests niche partitioning. You had other pterosaurs around them, like the long-tailed Rhamphorhynchus. If Rhamphorhynchus was maybe nocturnal or active at dawn and dusk, then Pterodactylus being active during the day avoids direct competition.
Smart. So they carved out their own time slots and food with those 90 little teeth.
Seems like it was a generalist carnivore. Probably ate various small vertebrates, maybe fish and invertebrates. Toothwear studies suggest it wasn't hyper-specialized, but could handle a range of prey, with a surprisingly decent bite force for its size.
An efficient little daytime hunter, then.
Pretty much sums it up.
So when we wrap this all up, what's the big takeaway? This Small, initially baffling reptile.
Yeah, the legacy is kind of ironic, isn't it? Despite the scientific clarification that Pterodactylus antiquus is this one specific, relatively small species.
The name just stuck.
Exactly. The informal name, pterodactyl, is just, culturally sticky. People use it for everything. Any flying reptile, often picturing things like the giant pteranodon, which lived much later and looked very different.
So there's this huge gap between the scientific reality and just what people think of when they hear the word.
Absolutely. It really shows how that first discovery, even with all the initial confusion, can kind of permanently shape public perception, sometimes overshadowing decades of later science.
A fascinating journey. From sea monster to scientific puzzle to pop culture icon, it really underscores that digging into the actual story is always more rewarding.
Well said.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe to the show. Hey, leave us a 5-star review if you can. It really does help get the word out. Thanks for tuning in.